Good evening. Welcome to East Lampeter Township Planning Commission meeting for September 8th. We'll take roll call, say here and raise your hand. So Daryl?
Here.
Roger?
Here.
Dan?
Here.
Dan Bizarre is not with us this evening. I'm John Keeler. 4 members present. Tara is our acting secretary this evening. First item would be Pledge of Allegiance. Please join us. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, liberty and justice for all. Thank you. A timely reminder, the Census 2020 time. Everybody please fill out the census form online at 2020census.gov. Approval of the minutes of the August 11th, 2020 Planning Commission meeting. Having read and reviewed those minutes, are there any additions or corrections? Hearing none, I'll look for a motion to pass as written.
Move to approve the minutes of August 11th.
We have a motion before us to approve the minutes as written. Is there a second to that motion?
Second.
Moved and seconded. All those in favor say aye and raise your hand. Aye.
Aye.
So passed. Item 5, old business, none at this time. Item 6, new business, proposed zoning amendments.
So gentlemen, if you'll recall, a few months ago, I came to you with a memo that was prepared by township staff as to some of the changes that were proposed for the zoning ordinance as a technical amendment this go around 2020. So from that memo, the list of 23 changes were provided to the surrounding municipalities, Lancaster County Planning Commission, the school district, for any comments or concerns that they may have. I will bring your attention to a typo. Number 22 and number 23 should be Article 23, not Article 22. And that's evident by the section number that's provided there. So I'm happy to go through these with you briefly. The first one is the reduction. I'm sorry, John.
As you go through these, do you want us to say yes or?
At the end, if we could have one motion to take the group to the Board of Supervisors for approval, that if that's what you choose as a board, that would be great.
Okay.
The first is to reduce the overall kennel size in the ag district from 10,000 to 3,000 square feet, and that would exclude any doggy daycare facilities. The second is to add language in Article 23 to eliminate the required buffer of a kennel, and that's when it's conducive with constructed with a sound barrier type construction. This is when we're located more than 500 feet from an adjoining property line, a street right of way, or or a property line in all directions, sorry. The next is to remove or revise the definition of farmer's market in Article 2, and that so that it can be an indoor or outdoor market. The third,
Question on 3.
yes.
There's 2 lines written there. General merchandise that is new or used on a regular occurring basis, either indoors or outdoors. Is that the extent of the definition? Because the older definition then says the supplemental regulations for the farmer's market are specified under section 23-270 of the zoning ordinance.
This only states the change. So everything else would remain in that definition, John.
So the rest of it would stay?
That's correct.
Okay. Okay, I just didn't want to lose that.
Absolutely. The next would be to allow farmers markets in the BP district and continue to allow them by special exception in the other districts that are listed. Another is to allow municipal buildings and uses in all districts. Currently it is not allowed in all districts, or it's by special exception in some districts.
Is that all or add municipal buildings?
Add municipal buildings and uses and other public uses
Okay,
by right within all districts.
okay. Thank you. That's a minor change.
Add language in Article 3 so that any use other than residential and agricultural shall be permitted a maximum building coverage of 30%. Now, Article 3 is the ag district, so a building coverage of less than 30% on larger parcels is very reduced. Then there's add language in Article 3 for residential and agricultural shall be permitted with maximum lot coverage of 50%. Remove Article 17. This is a leftover from previous removals of changes to the zoning ordinance that this was forgotten in the prior technical amendment.
Okay, Tara, 6, 7, and 8, I understand. 6 and 7 were not part of that previous memo that we did back in June. Was this something new that came up, or?
This was something new that came up. Yes, thank you. I was getting there. This is something new that came up, and this came up as a result of a municipal project.
And you said Article 3 that's agriculture.
It is.
So both 6 and 7 is in regards to ag. Okay.
That is correct.
And what was it before?
The building coverage. Give me 1 second, Daryl.
Yeah, I didn't know if it went up or down.
It went up. Can you all see my share screen?
I can.
Yes.
Yeah. Yes.
Okay, so currently, sorry, I'm squinting because I'm looking on this small monitor.
It was 25%. Whoop, you went too far. Yeah. B5.
Right here, no more than 25% shall be covered by buildings, and we're increasing that to 30%. And then the maximum lot coverage from 40% to 50%.
Okay, so we increased.
That's correct.
Thank you.
Absolutely. Moving on, the next few were a result of the Route 340 project that has slowly moved forward, and given the circumstances of this year, it has slowly moved forward, but it is still moving forward, and that is to align some of the uses and requirements between Lake Hawk Township C1 and the Bird in Hand district in the Bird in Hand area. So that would include items 9, 10, that's allow nursery uses within the Bird in Hand district, and allow theaters within the Birmingham district by special exception with an emergency management evacuation plan and a traffic study. Now, that does not exclude them from meeting all of the other requirements in the supplemental regulations.
Okay.
Another item came about not from the Route 340 study, but from a project that has come through the township, is to add a maximum height requirement for extended stay hotels.
Tara, on number 10, excuse me,
Yes.
previously, and I don't know if there's a distinction, we had said consider allowing nurseries and garden centers with a size limit, and now it's just nursery.
Yeah, we actually define it in the ordinance already. And so a nursery is defined separately as what some of us would call a garden center, as like a Home Depot kind of picture of a garden center. That is defined much differently than a nursery is defined. And so without adding yet another definition into the zoning ordinance, it was felt that the nursery was the better use option to go with in this particular case.
Okay, and
in fact, we have nursery uses along Route 340 already.
Tara, on 9 and 10 that Darrell was talking about, when we look at the specifics in the back, it's either principal or accessory. What are you asking for here?
These could be either.
Well, then shouldn't it state that?
We can do that.
And is there a need for a size limit on the nursery and
In all the other districts that it's allowed, they have special lot size and building requirements.
And all of those supplemental regulations would follow through.
okay,
Okay, so when it's listed on the chart, it'll have a number 1 under it, or primary, accessory, and number 1, as do the other ones.
So the next two, the auto repair in the VG, this was an oversight and should have been removed under a previous change. As I think I've explained before, there was a lot of language within the draft zoning ordinance that pertained to gardens. And we're not talking about commercial gardens, we're talking about individual residential gardens. And we thought all of that language was taken out. There remained this one line that we found, and so we're looking to take that out, and that's under section 22030N8. Next item, item 15, is in regards to agricultural livestock fencing. In the township, we have a requirement that fencing cannot be greater than 3 feet within a front yard setback. And that's basically to take care of sightline issues along a roadway, because that's where your front yard is. However, we have found the need in agricultural zones and where there's agricultural uses that they have agricultural livestock fencing, which can be up to 4 feet in height, as long as it does not interfere with a stop condition or a clear sight triangle. Under section 23070C2, we would eliminate the requirement for a landowner to run or manage the non-residential use in a mixed-use building. This is the requirement, or this is the allowance where 2 accessory apartments can be allowed on a second floor of a non-residential building. However, in there, it requires that the non-residential use be run or managed by the landowner. And in some cases, this is just not possible or not the way the operation works. There's notes at the bottom of table 22230.1 that are referencing the wrong number. It's referencing 22030.1. So that's just a typo that needs to be taken care of. We've had discussions about adding transit bus shelter advertising. And we looked at different language that we could put into the zoning ordinance that would allow for advertising in transit bus shelters without interfering with a bus driver seeing that there are individuals waiting for the bus within the shelter, and to reduce any safety concerns that individuals in the shelter may have. So that language is in number 18. We've added in Article 23, Section 23440E5D, the allowance for the 0 side yard for the twin model of manufactured homes. And this was a variance that was granted by the Zoning Hearing Board earlier this year. There are models where garages abut each other, and the garages are stick-built on site and attached to the manufactured dwelling with firewalls between them. And then a firewall between the garage portion of the building and the manufactured home. So it's a different type of residential unit that could be offered to residents. In Article 25, Section 25080F10, this should read emergency management services for use. There's a typographical error there. In the design guidelines for the Bird in Hand district, it indicates that curb and sidewalk information is to be provided at a different width and construction than is provided for in the subdivision and land development ordinance. Now, any developer could develop sidewalk or curbing with different materials if granted permission to do so by either PennDOT or the township, depending on who has jurisdiction over that particular roadway. However, we really do want to have sidewalk widths that make sense and meet ADA regulations. And so we have taken that information out of the Bird in Hand design guidelines and wish to just utilize the subdivision and land development ordinance for that. So there was discussion about removing schools. Our school definition is clumped and then separated. So it's schools, they educate people, and then it's divided into grade schools, so public, private, and then commercial, and then colleges and technical. And where these schools were located, it makes perfect sense for a technical or college to be located in potentially an industrial area or a commercial area, whereas it may not make as much sense for a grade school to be in those particular areas. And so every attempt was made to put those where they best fit. And then the last one is to allow the increase of the height of a school by 1 foot for every 2 foot of additional setback. And this is something that this township has allowed in many of our districts for many different types of uses. As long as there was additional setback allowances provided, the height could increase. And of course, there's always a maximum that increase can go to. Now, don't be surprised if there's yet more changes to the zoning ordinance this year or early next year. Remember, this is a living document that we know needs to change. And look, our economy is changing rapidly, and how we function is changing rapidly. A few months ago, we were not doing planning commission meetings in this format. So.
Thank you for that
See other
review.
changes.
Thank you for that review. I normally ask at this point if there was any citizen comments.
Give me 1 second. There are no comments received in the public comment email.
Okay, comments or questions from planning commission?
I just have a question on number 15 on the fencing in the front yard setback. What is the actual setback on that, on the fencing?
It's 10 feet from the right of way.
Okay, are we always that way? It seems like there's a lot of fencing out there. It seems like it's closer to the road. Maybe,
That would be for agricultural only.
yeah, I'm thinking agriculture. It seems like the ag area seems like there's some of these fencing get right pretty close to the road. And maybe I'm thinking other times, like I bike a lot, so maybe I'm thinking some places else, but it just seems like there's some of these fences are pretty close. And I think they're within 10 feet of the setback. The 10 feet seems like an adequate, but I think some of them seem to be much closer than that.
I would tend to agree with you, Dan, that some do seem much closer than that or are much closer than that. However, there are no regulations currently for agricultural livestock fencing.
Okay.
There's regulations for fencing in general.
So that's a little different then, is that what you're saying?
So there's solid fencing that is regulated in residential areas in front yard setbacks. Obviously, we can't have a 6-foot front yard fence when we're trying to get out of driveways and navigate down roadways.
Right.
What we're talking about here is basically the posts and then the electrical fencing to keep your animals in. We're not talking about a complete solid fence.
Yeah. Well, it seems like there's a lot of fencing out there where the animals are almost within 5 feet of the right of way. Yeah. But yeah, I may be wrong there, but yeah.
Thank you, Dan. Any other questions or comments?
Yes, Tara, there were a couple other items previously that aren't covered here.
That's
No.
correct.
And the one was from the zoning hearing board about tourist homes.
That's correct. So after I came to you with the memo, I went to the Board of Supervisors and had their input collected as well. And from there, we moved forward with everything that they felt was needed at this time.
Okay. The couple others were Bird in Hand and Route 340 was places of worship and schools.
Right, so we allow places of worship and schools in the district, and we'll have further conversation with Lake Hawk for them to consider allowing them.
Okay, would that be something that could be addressed now for Bird in Hand Village District or?
Well, so we allow them, and I think originally it was, sorry, give me 1 second to pull out that memo, that we were going to consider them as special exception. Right, so Lake Hawk Township has them by special exception, and they asked us if we would consider them by special exception, and our board said that they would prefer to leave them as by right.
Okay, and the same with restaurants?
So I think we had this conversation when we went over the memo. Restaurants and the limitation on the number of seats, for us is really governed by the lot size, the parking area, fitting the stormwater on the site. It's really governed by the site requirements and how many seats can actually be in there. And so the board wasn't willing to move forward with restricting the number of seats. If you have a large site, then you could have a larger size restaurant.
Okay. And the last one was food trucks in residential districts.
So that was actually discussed with the township solicitor, and to actually have a food truck on a roadway is not a zoning issue. It's actually a police issue. And can be considered under the transient retail permit through the township. It's not a zoning issue because it's not on a parcel. It's not on a piece of property. So if someone were to park on a residential piece of property, then that's a different situation.
Okay, yeah, because that is occurring some other places.
It is. It's
The
for,
food trucks on, out of the right of way and on property.
Oh, now the food trucks that we're aware of have been on the right of way.
Okay, I mean, I don't know within East Lampeter, out, which township is it? It's out near Certified Carpet, out past Maple Grove Community Center. There's a food truck that sets off the highway.
Township?
And yeah, is that Lancaster Township?
I believe that's Lancaster Township.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know what their regulation is. It had been further out the road, and now we were just through there over the weekend and saw it, and they were very busy, like 8 o'clock at night. So, and for us, what is like what is it, Callis or Chillis that's over there at Lowe's and Home and Costco that sets off the side? Is that that's not
actually in the city of Lancaster.
Oh, yeah, and I'm not quite sure what that is. I don't think that's a food truck, but it's a permanent food truck, I guess.
It seems more permanent than one that they're taking away,
Yeah,
but that is city of Lancaster.
that's right. Yeah, that would just be over in the city. Yes. Okay.
Thank you, Daryl. Any other questions or comments? Hearing none, we'll look for a motion.
I'll make a motion in reference to the August 13th letter on the proposed revisions, changes to the zoning ordinance. I'd recommend approval with the 4 changes we discussed. I think item 5, all would be add. Item 10 on nurseries, that it would specify the specific use, whether it's primary or not, as we discussed. And then in items 22 and 23, that the article number be corrected from 22 to 23. With that, I'd recommend approval of the proposed changes.
Thank you, Daryl. There's a motion before us. Is there any questions or comments on that motion? Hearing none, I'll look for a second to that motion.
I'll second it.
Moved and seconded. All those in favor say aye and raise your hands. Aye.
Aye.
So voted. Thank you. Thank you for the presentation, Tara.
Absolutely.
Next is briefing items. A is 2020-13 Arlene Hess Estate Subdivision Plan, 290 Clearview Road.
So these are just briefing items. Let me share my screen with you very quickly. This is at Clearview Road. This is a center line separation. Oops, I'm sorry, I went a little too far. As you can see, this is Clearview right here. Can everyone see my cursor and this share screen?
Yes.
Yes.
Where is Clearview Road?
I'm glad that you asked.
It's tucked behind Host Farm Golf Resort.
Comes off of Rockville.
Yeah, it comes off of Rockville. It's a
Okay.
road most
Off
township
Rockville
people.
towards Mennonite School?
No, it goes the other way. Oh. So if you were going through the intersection of Rockvale,
Can you see this, gentlemen?
Yes, yes,
These are the string of ponds at the back of the Host Golf Resort, which is now the Wyndham Host. Does everyone see that string of
Yep.
Yes.
Yeah.
ponds? And Clearview
yes,
is directly across from them. This is
Yeah.
Clearview.
okay,
And just off of Terrace Green on the left is Stroudsburg Pike.
Right there. Everyone see that?
yeah,
right,
Okay, so we are right here.
okay,
Okay, we're all familiar now?
Mhm.
In
Thank you.
general? Absolutely. So let me see if I can go back to, okay, can everyone see this now?
yes,
Okay.
Yes.
Yep.
So a center line separation of the property. Majority of the farm buildings are on the west side of Clearview. There is a tenant home and barn on the east side of Clearview. Now, we did go back and we did research this quite a bit because the subdivision rights and what would remain with the property at this point in time, given the construction that has occurred on the property with the tenant home, which dates back quite a ways, honestly. So in our research, we found that this would be the last subdivision right that this original property has under the zoning ordinance.
Now, what are they planning to subdivide? What's into 2 lots or?
Yes, into 2 lots. And give me 1 second. I think there is. Currently, that's what the original, what the property looks like, okay? And then Clearview comes down right here, cuts through.
We're still back on the satellite view on my screen.
yes,
Oh.
me too.
Yes.
Sorry, gentlemen.
There we go.
There we go.
Okay, so Clearview comes through here, and currently, this is how the property looks. Clearview cuts through the property like this. So the line would come directly through the center of Clearview Road
Hmm.
and separate this parcel on the east from this parcel on the west.
What would the acreage be of each?
This acreage is 33.2 and this acreage is 43.9. Can you see that?
Yes.
Mhm.
So that will be before you at your October 13th meeting.
Okay.
Okay, thank you.
Absolutely. On is the 1770 Hempstead Road subdivision and land development plan. Now, this is currently under construction, if you have been over in that area, as this came in for a stormwater plan. First of all, both 1740 and 1770 Hempstead Road came in for a stormwater plan, as they're changing the building around, but now you can see this is, and excuse me, they're changing the stormwater as well. So you can see that this is what is proposed in the stormwater plan for this site. see this piece of this property to the north, 521 Greenfield Road, is being added to the 1770 property. Do you see, can everyone see this tie bar?
Yes,
Yeah,
Okay, great. Sorry, went too fast. Connections to the overall trail system throughout the business park will be made to this property. And a slight expansion of the parking area and a connection to the 1740 lot will also be made.
is that the lot, Tara, that's currently being demolished, the building?
This one right here. So portions of the building are being demolished on both of these, actually. So this building from about, can everyone see my cursor, about halfway through the 1740 building? This back
Yeah.
piece of the building will stay, and this front piece is using the same foundation, but having a much different layout interior.
Okay, yeah, it looked like they were halfway through demolition, so they're only doing half.
They are only doing half. So this will have connections to both buildings, both vehicular and pedestrian, and again, pedestrian connections to the trail system in the business park. This is, of course, after the subdivision because this property ends right about here currently.
You said the trail system's going to connect. Is the trail up to this property now?
Not quite. If I remember correctly, Daryl, the trail comes over here somewhere. The connection would have to be made. And if you would not know this, but Greenfield came in, High Associates came in with a stormwater management plan for an overall trail system in the entire business park, which included this.
Okay.
That did not come before you because it was a stormwater plan only.
Okay. Because right behind this is what, Aaron Acres?
I'm sorry?
On the backside of this isn't it, of this property is Aaron Acres? What's that, a daycare? So it looks like the trail system's going to go near the Hampton Inn and
I can't comment as to whether Aaron Acres is still there.
oh, okay,
I just don't know the answer.
okay.
So that too will be before you at your October 13th meeting. If it's okay, I'll move on to the Smock Associates subdivision.
okay,
All right.
thank you.
We are on North Ronks Road and Maple Road. Can everyone see those roadways on this map? Maple Road is towards the bottom and to the right, and because it makes that turn to connect to Ronks Road, which is across the top of the paper or the screen.
Mhm.
Yes,
And so this is the pond area of the family, of the Bird in Hand Family Inn and Restaurant. Okay,
Mhm.
this is a 1 acre parcel right here. I'm trying to outline it that abuts both Maple Avenue and North Ronks Road. This line right here that bisects the parcel is the township line. So this side of The property is East Lampeter, and this side towards the top is Laycock Township. The intent is to sell this 1 acre parcel to this property, but not to join them together. Joining them together would increase this lot size above what the bird in hand lot area requirements are. So it would exceed the maximum lot requirements that are permitted in the bird in hand area. You can see that this property is encumbered by overhead lines. In this section right here. And there's an intermittent or perennial stream through the property. At present, it's being farmed as I know it.
Any member have any questions or comments on the proposed review? Thank you, Tara. Will that also be next month?
That too will be at your October 13th.
Thank you. Item 8 is other business. LUAB was canceled for the month of September. Number 9 is announcements. Please fill out your census form for 2020.gov. This is the last time we get a chance to advertise that. Is there any other business or questions anybody has? Tara, do you need papers or anything signed that we can stop at the office?
I have none right now, thank you.
Okay, and if you do, you'll send us an email.
I will do so.
With that happy note, I'll look for a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
We have a motion before us to adjourn. Is there a second to that motion?
I'll
Second.
second.
Moved and seconded. All those in favor say aye.
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 So adjourned. Thank you very much, gentlemen.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank
So
you.
Tara,
you,
you
Tara.
got the running?